Hello everyone, my name is Shivajit and today we are starting with the useRef problem solving series with the problem named fix a broken chart input. Okay, so let us see the UI and then understand what the code is all about and start working on the issue. Okay, so let me go through the code, let me go through the UI. So here if you are able to see that we have an input HTML element and then we have a button named send. Okay, let me type something inside that. Let's say Delhi, and if I send this, okay, after waiting for 3 seconds, a alert will pop up saying sent. Okay, now if I send again and undo, click undo before 3 seconds, but still if you see this sent alert is coming. So this is the actual issue, that when we are clicking the undo button, the sent alert should not be shown. Okay, I hope you are able to understand the issue. Now let's go to the code editor to resolve this issue. Okay, let's see how the React components are working here. So we have the chat as the main component. Then inside this we have two state variables. One is the text and the other one is the ascending, which is initially set to false. So the text is actually what this text state variable is something which handles this input HTML element. Okay, and is sending is something which actually handles the state of uh, this button, that whenever we are sending it, it should be, yeah, showing the status send. Else, if sending is true, then we will show the undo button. I hope that is understood. And if is sending is true, then sending dot 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 will be shown. Else send will only be shown. I will also again show it to the UI. So send is now there. When we click it, sending dot 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 and undo button is shown. Okay. Okay. This much is clear. I also encourage you to watch the use state hook video as well as the user of hook video, which is already present in the channel. Then you will be really it will be really easy for you to understand this. Okay, here apart from these two state variables, we have a timeout id, just a normal timeout id is a normal variable which is yeah, initialized with let timeout id is equals to null. Okay, and then we have one function handle send. This handle send is something which is happening when we are clicking the send button. So this handle send is being triggered then. So whenever we are going inside the handle send, what is happening? The set is sending is becoming to true, that we are making the sending state variable is sending state variable to true. Then in the timeout variable, what we are storing a set timeout. In the timeout id variable, we are storing the result of a set timeout, which sends an alert of sent and which makes the set is sending to false after 3 seconds. That is, whenever we click the send button, this set is sending is true. If you have seen other React patterns, whenever we make an API call, we make set loading as true, and then inside this we make an API call, and then inside that we after that we make set is loading as false. So you don't have to worry that much if you don't have seen that pattern of making API calls, but you just have to understand here is that initially set is sending is true, and after 3 seconds set is sending will be become to false when this alert is sent. Okay, this looks fine. We have one handle undo also. So while it is sending the message, if we click handle undo, then set is sending becomes false in between, and we clear the timeout which is set by this timeout ID. Okay, this looks fine. And everything else I have also explained you the UI stuff, what is happening. Okay, now one thing you should understand here is that whenever we type something inside this input HTML element, okay, and now we the text whatever we have actually stores whatever we have typed inside this input element, this state variable, text state variable. That is fine. Now we have one more state variable is sending. So after we have inputted the text which we want to send to somewhere we want to send, I have clicked the send button on the UI. The moment I click the send button on the UI, set is sending becomes true, and this timeout ID now stores the return of this set timeout, return of the ID by this set timeout of 3 seconds. That we are able to understand fine. But the moment this set is sending is true and this actually runs, the whole component re-renders, because we are calling a set method, right? So the state variable will change from false to true, and as the state variable changes from false to true, there is a whole re-render of the UI component. And in that case, whatever timeout ID we have stored inside the handle send again becomes null on this re-render. So whenever this whole component runs again, re-rendered again, then this timeout ID again becomes null, and whatever we have set the timeout, that is gone now. And the moment we do undo, after that we are clearing out the timeout ID, and that timeout ID is now null. That timeout ID is now null. It doesn't store the timeout ID which is returned by the set timeout. Okay, and this set timeout is still on the background running. It hasn't been cleared because we have cleared something else. We have cleared a null value which is not something which was returned by this. So this is the issue. So this is the issue. The issue lies in that we have stored the timeout ID of the set timeout in this timeout ID variable, but what happened was, due to this set is sending is equals to true, this whole component re-render and this timeout ID is again initialized to null value, because on re-renders the normal initialization will basically reset its value to whatever like written here. If you want to store the value for subsequent re-renders, or if you want the UI not to reset the value on subsequent re-renders and to hold that value so that it can be used for further purpose, but the change on that should not trigger the render on the UI. It should not trigger the render on the UI. In that case, if you have seen the useRef video, you will be definitely able to say that it's the best, one of the best use cases of useRef hook. So I will actually incorporate this here. So we have the useRef hook here. Let's import this. So timeout ID, we have the useRef hook initialized to null. Okay. Now this timeout ID will not be resetted to null every time the component is re-rendered due to the change in text or change in sending. Okay. We also know that whenever we want to mutate the value or read the value of the value returned from the useRef hook, we will be using a current property of the uh, timeout ID here. So timeout ID dot current is set timeout, and clear timeout also timeout ID dot current. Now it is very simple. Whenever the set is sending is true, this whole component re-renders, but the timeout ID value is timeout ID dot current still stores the set timeout value. It will not be reinitialized to null because we are using the useRef hook here, which will hold the value for subsequent re-renders, for the next re-renders. Okay, this much is understood. Let me save this And clear timeout also we are doing timeout id dot current. So basically the timeout id dot current is now storing the timeout id which is sent by this set timeout. Okay. Okay, so let's see how the UI looks now. Let's say Shubhajit send, and I'm doing undo. Are you able to see that there is no alert coming in? What it means? It means that the we have stopped that set timeout thing, which will be running after 3 seconds. And that's how we have achieved this. Okay, I hope you have understood the video. If you have any doubts, put in the comment section. I will be really happy to help. Thanks a lot, guys.